These are the 10 deficient commandments of dungeon mastering for D&D and other tabletop RPGs. And while these commandments are not the one true way, they are my true way that I have learned over the years in games. So perhaps some of these will benefit your own games, as they have for mine. In no particular order.
Thou shalt keep thy game moving.
Pacing, pacing, pacing. I'm a bit obsessed over it, both for my own videos and for my RPGs. I am but a finite creature on this mortal plane, and I want to spend it playing pretend with dice. That means I need to know the core rules of my game system to use as a foundation for both me and my players, while also being confident in myself to make rulings when the players do things that there's not a rule for. And while it might help to stop the game and look up how many miles a horse pulling a carriage can travel through a mountain hex while it's raining, that doesn't help me
Keep thy game moving.
This also means learning how to control time. Whether that's when to start a scene, when to end a scene, and when to provide pressure on the players by creating an in-game timer. This is learned through good old-fashioned experience, and by asking yourself constantly that, what can I do in this moment to
Keep thy game moving. Thou shalt make thy players feel important.
We can make players feel important not by catering to their every whim or by never letting them fail. We make players feel important by focusing on the aspects of the game they are focused on. This actually makes my game prep easier because I don't stress about preparing every part of the game world. Because I prep using a frustum culling method, which is a rendering method used by many video games to decrease the amount of resources that have to load outside of the player's vision. I, too, have a limited time and processing power, so my efforts go towards what the players are looking at in my games. If my wizard wants to craft magical rings, for example, I don't spend my time inventing cooking mechanics. I'm going to use my prep time making roll tables for types of gems or jewelry that they can find, and by creating adventures and rewards that lead my wizard towards achieving their wants.
Thou shalt learn from other game systems for the love of
Pathfinder fixes this. But for real. The best examples I've seen of game philosophy, adventure design, and unique mechanics to steal from my own campaigns came not from the mainstream billion-dollar company, but from the little guys and gals creating their own passion projects. Especially when it comes to examples of adventure design. If your idea of a top-tier pre-made adventure to learn from is Icewind Dale or Curse of Strahd, you haven't seen nothing until you experience what an adventure written for actual use at the table looks like. Such as these, or Pirate Borg's upcoming Down Among the Dead, the sponsor for this video. When I met Luke Stratton at Gen Con after posting my deficient review of Scallywags and Pirate Borg, it was an easy yes for me to shout out Pirate Borg's Kickstarter, Down Among the Dead, containing 3 pirate-themed adventures and even more GM tools for pirate-y themed campaigns. Also featured in this Kickstarter is Pirate Borg's first ever box set, as well as the community-created Cabin Fever, which includes 6 adventures, way more pirate-themed classes, GM tools, and look, there's so much stuff offered here. This is the pirate game I wish I had back when the 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies were my entire personality. There were only 3. There were no other movies made after World's End. So if you want a masterclass in game design and piratey themes, check out Pirate Borg's Down Among the Dead Kickstarter in the description below.
Thou shalt steal everything.
The reason I love exploring other game systems is because it's a trove of material and ideas my 5e-pilled players will never suspect. When you steal from enough sources, you start looking original. I love creating OC as much as the average r/D&D post, but sometimes when the creative juice is low and the game's in an hour, the manner the players are gonna explore today is gonna look a lot like Lady Boyle's Last Party from the 2012 Arcane Immersive Sim Dishonored 1. Is that showing my age? Fortnite!
Thou shalt be fair and impartial.
I am not my players. I am all 5 of their senses. I am the world. The sea and the stars and all that lies beneath and between are at my command. Yet I am not God, nor a storyteller. I am a referee. I calls them as I sees them. You may argue my calling, but I have the final say. I am a cheerleader for my players. I celebrate their successes, and I grieve with them in their failures. I often explain my reasoning for what I'm doing or why this particular thing is happening. I expose the mechanics and prep I use, should they ask, but I must treat the world as if it was real. as if it doesn't know the players are the heroes, because then the players can show my world that they are the heroes, or that they're just murder hobos.
Thou shalt honor thy dice and thy prep.
Part of being fair and impartial means having the foundation of rules you yourself must adhere to. I am two sides to my game mastering, based on if I'm prepping the game or if I'm running the game. When I prep, I consider the players and their characters' level and abilities, but I don't pull out the challenge rating calculators. I place in my world what makes sense. But when I take that prep to the table, I go back to being the referee. If prep me put 6 skeletons in this tomb, ref me isn't going to add or remove skeletons based on how the players feel in this moment. Same goes with dice rolls. I roll everything in front of my group. This shows that I am not trying to manipulate the player's experience. Their success and failures are on them and their choices, not because you got me to feel sorry for you or because I want to see you struggle.
Thou shalt let thy players' actions change thy world.
The reason I don't call myself a storyteller is because I have no true control of the story in my games. The minute I ask the players, "What do you do?" I have given away my power to narrate what happens. I could prep this perfect story with interesting NPCs, dazzling locations, and epic twists that they never see coming, only for them to kill my darlings, burn my set pieces, and ignore hours of content I've tailor-made for them. They have fun while I sit here feeling bitter and burnt out. That doesn't mean I don't design interesting things happening in my game world. I only design up until the point my players enter the scene. I have loose ideas, but they're tossed the moment the players interact with them. And then after the session, I consider how would my world naturally react to what my players did. That's where I find my fun, by being surprised where the players and the dice take my world. Let the players mess up your perfect little creation, because it's no longer just your creation when you ask them, "What do you do?"
Thou shalt not remove thy players' agency.
I do not tell players how their character feels. I do not tell them if their character's actions are right or wrong. I will tell them if the player's actions are right or wrong, in context with the table dynamics and what we established in Session 0. But I do not force the characters to make a decision because it's the correct choice, or it's the choice I planned for.
Thou shalt use thy best ideas now.
There are only so many game sessions I'll be able to run with this specific group of players and friends. I don't ever want to create filler adventures for the sake of waiting for the players to reach a certain level or, God forbid, the right moment in their character arc before the real game begins. If I read an adventure or come up with an idea that inspires me, I try to find a way to get that into the next game, if possible. Because if you're excited to present something in your game, players tend to be drawn towards what you're passionate to show them.
Thou shalt remember to have fun.
End of day, no matter if you disagree with either some or even all of these commandments, your fun is valid, you play however you want. The litmus test of being a good game master is, did you have fun? You're doing this because you enjoy it yourself, right? And if not, maybe you need to change the game you're playing, or change the campaign, or even change the players. Maybe you might have to change a few commandments too. What are your 10 commandments for DMing? Let me know below. Thanks again for Limithron for sponsoring this video. Check out Down Among the Dead Kickstarter below, and if you want to see my, not sponsored, review of his incredible Pirate Borg game, watch this next.